Hey, today's document of the week is the As-Is Addendum to Purchase Agreement. So the As-Is Addendum is a document that's been used frequently in the past years to help make their offer a bit stronger in this competitive market. But the document's language changed at the beginning of this year, and I just want to make sure you all are on the same page and comfortable with what your clients are signing. So we'll quickly review this for this week's document of the week. The first part talks about the language of where this document is attached, which address it is attached to. Item number 1 talks about how the purchase agreement and the addendum work hand in hand, and if there is a conflict, then the addendum shall prevail. Item number 2 breaks it down as though it's almost as I read it as though there's 2 paragraphs. And the first part of it says, seller and buyer acknowledge and agree that the property is being sold in its existing as-is condition, and the seller shall not be responsible for the repair, replacement, or modification of any deficiencies, malfunctions, or mechanical defects on the property, or to any improvements thereon, including but not limited to the material, workmanship, or mechanical components of the structures. And then it breaks it down into the other components of the home. The second part of that starts on line 14, and it says seller makes no representation or warranty to buyer, either express or implied, as to 1, the condition of the property, 2, the zoning of the property, and 3, the suitability of the property for buyer's intended use or purpose, or for any other use or purpose. However, seller represents and warrants that the seller will maintain and repair the property so that the property will be in substantially the same condition on the closing date as on the effective date of the purchase agreement. Item number 3 talks about timelines for this inspection. It says that the buyer reserves the right to have and shall order all independent inspections after acceptance of this purchase agreement. If buyer's inspections uncover any previously undisclosed defects in the property, the buyer shall have so many days beginning the day following the date of acceptance of this purchase agreement to 1, terminate this purchase agreement, in which case the earnest money shall be promptly returned to the buyer, and 2, seller shall have no obligation whatsoever to correct such defects to repair the property as a result of such inspections. In the alternative, buyer may waive such defect and the transaction shall proceed toward closing. If the buyer does not terminate the agreement in writing or request an additional time to respond within the specified time period, the property shall be deemed to be acceptable. Item number 4 talks about what the definition of a defect is. Item number 5 is important. An inspection response by buyer requesting credits or repairs in violation of this as-is addendum shall allow the seller to terminate the purchase agreement by serving notice of termination to buyer, and earnest money shall be promptly returned to the buyer. Keep in mind, if the buyer requests or asks for credits or repairs to be done, that the seller can just offer up a notice of termination immediately to the buyer, and the earnest money shall be promptly returned to the buyer. Item number 6, seller acknowledges and agrees that the selling of property as is does not relieve the seller from applicable legal obligations to disclose any and all known material defects in the property and the improvements thereon, if any, to buyer. Then the seller shall have the water, gas, electricity, and all other operable pilot lights on for the buyer's inspections. Item number 7 is very important. I want to make sure that everybody is reading this to their clients as well. Buyer acknowledges and agrees that A, buyer has been advised to seek appropriate counsel regarding the risks of buying a property as is condition. B, neither buyers nor sellers' respective brokers are qualified, licensed, or required to conduct due diligence or inspections with respect to the property or the surrounding area. And C, buyer expressly releases and hold harmless brokers from and against any liability for any defects or conditions in the property and the improvements thereon, if any. But I hope you guys find this information helpful. Please keep in mind, if you're requesting a repair to be done and you're on the buyer side, it allows the seller to offer up that notice of termination. So be cautious, be safe out there, and we look forward to talking to you next week.